Welcome to another episode of the Sports Sentiment. I am your host, Nick Urias, and we are back once again talking college basketball. Our first time chatting here on the pod in the 2025 calendar year. Happy New Year to all of our listeners, watchers, supporters, and anyone that's tuned into any of our content. Appreciate the love, and we're going to keep the train rolling here in 2025. We got endless college basketball action from pretty much now to pretty much the first week of April, and we're gonna keep going all gas, no breaks here. Took a little bit time off, was out of town for the new year, and we're back in action here, back in San Jose, and we're gonna keep monitoring the Mountain West as we have been pretty much all season long here as football season. Everyone, all the football folks that were tapped into college football, starting slowly but surely. Starting to get tapped in with the college hoops action now. Now that we're down to the final four of the college football playoff, everyone is slowly chasing the dragon and trying to figure out what's been going on in the college basketball landscape since the start of November. But we've been here, we've been keeping you know track of all of it pretty much here on as far as the Mountain West Conference is concerned, and a little bit big picture as well. But hey, Mountain West action, we're in the meat of conference play. It doesn't get much better than this. We're chatting with you on a Wednesday afternoon after a really good Tuesday Mountain West slate that took place on January 5th. Some games between Utah State and San Jose State that came down to the wire. New Mexico and Wyoming, I thought was a fascinating game. UNLV and Boise State. Boise State dominated the UNLV Rebels, and Fresno State and Colorado State. A game that didn't really have too much action as far as the scoreboard and back and forth, but still a dominant win for Colorado State. We'll talk about all those results, a stacked Saturday slate, but I do want to backtrack a little bit as far as San Jose State's concerned, because the Spartans, they lose to Utah State last night in a game that they were competitive at the event center from start to finish. Losers by 7 in that one, 85-78. But last time we chatted, we talked about, just the frustration of, the Boise State loss. They were 0-2. We thought the Colorado State game was very winnable on New Year's Eve, and SJSU just really couldn't make a shot, forcing some shots a little bit out of frustration. But just overall, you can just tell the team wasn't really ready for that game. Did they have New Year's Eve plans? Doesn't matter. The Spartans really didn't show up. They couldn't make a shot. What really shocked me in that one was just, emotionally and, mentally, it just didn't look like they were ready. And, it seemed like, once when they got down by like 15 and the shots weren't falling, like you could just tell the effort wasn't there. And that was really surprising for me. You already know Tim Miles is going to have his guys ready, but the fact that, those experienced veterans didn't bring it for 40 minutes kind of caught me by surprise a little bit. So that was, I don't know if alarming was the word, but I would say surprising. And then the UNLV game, right? They go on the road against the Rebels, frustrating game. SJSU was in that one for a decent amount of it on the road. UNLV ripped up like a 15, 17 point lead, nearly upwards of 20. And San Jose State nearly came all the way back, forced it to like 5. Donovan Yap hit some big shots. Will McClendon, he was pretty much a constant in that loss in Las Vegas. But SJSU just really couldn't capitalize down the stretch. And I think that is the main story for this team right now, is the fact that they just can't close out games. And even going back to their non-conference, right? We've talked about this, on pretty much every iteration of the pod since we've been talking all season long, and that is, San Jose State, even with this loss to Utah State last night, 0-5 in league play, but they just can't seem to play consistently for 40 minutes in the first half, whether it's on the road. They dig themselves in these deep holes, and the hole is just too deep to dig themselves out of. They will make a run. Like they've shown that they can make a run when they do put themselves in the deficit. But there's that the opposition just always finds a way to just make a couple extra plays to just hold on. And that's frustrating for Spartan fans. I know that we've been through this now for, the past couple of years now, right? Where, yeah, they might get the signature win 2 years ago versus Boise State, you know, the conference tournament victory versus Nevada. Last year, they had some good moments, not very many, but there were some moments in there. And everyone's kind of being left on a cliffhanger here. Like, are we going to have one of those moments this year where, we're celebrating at the event center, or, folks are excited and ecstatic for a big time road victory? We haven't seen that yet. This group is from, just the eye test has shown with this group in particular, with these veterans, that they are more than capable of, cashing in on some big wins. And you're seeing this team is competitive every single night. And I know we sound like a broken record right now, because we just keep saying it and saying it. But at some point, Tim Miles and his group, like with these guys, are going to break through for some games. And I know we're 5 games in, and they've played a tough schedule, but I think we just got to come to a realization as well that the Mountain West is really good, guys. Like, it is really good. And like you're seeing, like with Utah State, like in last night's game, Utah State 85-78, San Jose State on New Year's Eve, prior their last home game, they couldn't throw it into the ocean, right? They were 0 for 20 from three to start out the game. They hit like two threes like in the final couple minutes, and they just couldn't make a shot to really save their lives. And they just came out against Utah State and just started firing on all cylinders. Like Donovan Yap, if you would have told me Donovan Yap, just coming into the game, he said, "Yeah, we're going to get 22 points out of Donovan Yap. He's going to hit 6 threes, and you're going to have Latrell Davis come off the bench and have 20." Which, by the way, good to see Latrell Davis back. Looked healthy out there last night versus Utah State, because that UNLV that fall with him cut into the basket going up for a reverse layup did not come back into the game. That did not look good. That did not look good. And the fact that he was able to go out there, still play, over 22 minutes and, score over 20 points, that was definitely a green flag of if you're a Spartan fan. But if you would have told me Donovan Yap had 22 points, Latrell Davis would have had 20 points, I would have said San Jose State's probably in the win column and has their first win against a ranked opponent since 1996. And with Latrell's bench production from what's I think it's safe to say is now a constant, with him scoring north of 10 a game. But Donovan Yap was really the guy where quite honestly, he had to step up. He needed to step up. An upperclassman that has struggled. He's been around the Mountain West. We've seen these type of outbursts from him at Fresno State. And the fact that he broke through for north of 20, if you would have told me that before the game started, I would have been like, SJSU is going to come up with the victory, because we've seen what Josh Aduje is capable of doing and what Will McClendon's doing. And, even though Day Hall has been pretty much, very good to round off non-conference, but since he's been into this Mountain West gauntlet, he has struggled. Rob Viola, we talked about it prior to the Boise State game with Jonathan, that this is going to be the type of physicality where he's going to flourish in. I mean, there was a stretch in that game versus Utah State last night, even though it was kind of getting out of hand in the final minute. He had like 3 offensive rebounds on one possession, which was unreal. So you're starting to see like these guys are more than capable of, playing with the big dogs. They just can't close it out. And like, it's crazy because this team's record, they're 7-9 right now, 0-5 in league play. You could really flip, like if they're like a few layups away or a few jump shots away, from being 4 wins better and, being right in the thick of things in the Mountain West. But you got to close out games, and the Mountain West has a lot of good coaches. We'll talk about some really good coaches here in a bit based on Tuesday's action. And the league's very good with a lot of capable of scorers that can capitalize in crunch time. And, we saw that with Mason Falslev. Tucker Anderson was really good for Utah State last night. I mean, we've talked about Utah State a bunch, rightfully so. They're the best team in the league. They've only lost one game this year. They're undefeated on neutral and true road games. But if Utah State five double digit scores, like that's unbelievable. Like, and we talked about the depth with this team coming into the year, and we talked about a guy like Dayton Albury, right? Which, kind of like a guy that was coming off the bench from Queens University. How is he going to fit in with the whole Drake Allen thing? And Drake Allen goes down. Dayton Albury comes into the starting lineup. And that's really been a blessing in disguise because he really made some big plays last night in San Jose. I mean, just big time shots going downhill. Uh, just when you needed a bucket, he was one of the guys, especially in the second half. Obviously, Ian Martinez is a guy that's going to score in some big moments. Falslev as well, but Albury to me was the guy, and he's been the guy I would say going back towards I would say maybe a game or two before conference play started, where he started to pick things up, and that's just another dimension to what Utah State's got to the table. Because when you have three scores like that with Falslev, Martinez, and you could throw in Albury now, and then you get a guy like Tucker Anderson, which we talked about him. All it takes is 1 3 for him to get going. And he had like three threes in the first half in San Jose, which really carried the momentum for the Aggies early. And then you get other guys to come along for the ride as well, like Carson Templin and Aben Gutierrez. So Utah State, I mean, they're hands down the best team in the league right now. And they have a number next to their name for a reason at number 25 in America. Until somebody beats them, I mean, they're not going to lose many games. So it's frustrating for SJSU, like we said, because they're in a lot of these games, but they just can't close it out. And what really, just from watching this game, what kind of really shocked me a little bit was just the lack of production from Josh Aduje yesterday. And it's not like he didn't have a good game, but I wanted him to be a little bit more aggressive because we've seen what Josh is capable in an SJSU uniform this year. Like he's got 5 or 6 20-point games, and he's been, I would say, the quote unquote alpha for this team where you need a bucket, you go to Josh. And the fact that he only has 9 shot attempts in a game, in a Mountain West game, a game that, not to mention, what is against his former team. He was a Utah State Aggie last year, and I understand not the same cast of characters, not the same regime by any means. So the circumstances are a little bit different, but still, I thought that he himself would be a little bit more aggressive. Now, that's just the type of player he is. He is very unselfish. He clearly is a team first guy. Hey, Donovan Yap's got 22. Donovan Yap's got the shooting stroke going. Let's unlock his capabilities, especially for a guy that struggled. Latrell Davis is getting things going coast to coast. Let's get him going. He only had 3 assists, but still, down the stretch in that game, I would like it if Josh had the ball in his hands a little bit more. If Tim Miles coming off his ATOs would draw something up, because I think Josh is probably going to be the closer on this team. Like we'll be talking, when SJSU does break through for a win, and maybe it's a big win, Josh will probably be the guy down the stretch. And I hate to compare from the team 2 years ago, but sometimes there's no Amari Moore on SJSU's roster, but Josh, from what we've seen, is probably the guy where, hey, we need a bucket, we got to go to our guy. And Josh has been that guy. You're the quote unquote Amari Moore, where we need a bucket, in a 5-point game with 3 minutes to go, we got to go to him. So that was, even though there was a lot of guys that had the green light last night, I wish Josh had more opportunities to do some things, especially because it was against Utah State, and it wasn't whatever. We could throw in the quote unquote revenge game for Josh, but Josh had himself a big role on that team last year. So And we could ask him later in the week, what it was like going up against them. But still that really wasn't too much of a factor there. But still, I want more than 9 shot attempts, even though we're in Mountain West play, possessions are a little bit more limited for your points per game leader on any given night. You would like a little bit more aggressiveness from him, despite some other guys getting going. As far as this game is concerned, just overall, I thought it was gonna be a very fast-paced game. That's what we got. Uh, versus Utah State, you're gonna have to make your shots. I mean, SJSU made 14 threes in this game. Like they were firing on all cylinders. We've talked about the matchup zone quite a bit with Utah State. Just what they throw out defensively. SJSU looked pretty comfortable out there with that matchup zone. Now they did turn it over in some situations, which look, you're going to turn over the ball every game. Like it's pretty much an outlier if you have 2 turnovers against any team in a basketball game. But Fresno State really cracked the code on the matchup zone, like with just how they do it, and X's and O's wise, and the drive and kick and penetrating and finding the open shooter. And, you know, they seem to, crack the code. Fresno State, they look the best against it. SJSU did pretty good against the matchup zone, outside of, some bad passes here and there. But I mean, they were finding the crease, they were hitting the open jumpers, and, Utah State really didn't have to adjust all too much because they were kind of controlling the game for the most part, playing with the lead. But that was an encouraging sign for me. Like you can tell the guys were very prepared for that Utah State defense that has stifled a lot of teams this year. So that was a green flag for me. And just going forward, if you could really unlock Donovan Yap here, which if he can just get a shot going, and it's been a very frustrating year for him. I mean, to me, I think he's the X factor, and we've talked about it. Like, sure, I know Will McClendon did not shoot the ball good last night, 2 for 11, but this he's still going to be a guy that gets to the free throw line and makes his free throws. Rob is going to be a front court presence. I mean, the battle between him and he won the battle, I thought, between him and Godarise, the Stetson transfer. And they try to throw Carson Templin in there, and Jared Calhoun try to do some other things, but Rob's been pretty good here in conference play, outside of a couple missed free throws in that Boise State game. He's been pretty rock solid. When he has to go down dirty with the guy like Nelly Jr. Joseph out at the pit, he has stood his ground. So, got to give Rob some credit as well. He's came out there and done some good things against some really good front court pieces in the Mountain West so far. And right now it's just all about for SJSU playing consistently for 40 minutes and trying to, just close out these games. It seems like they're in a clutch time game almost every single night. 5-point game with 5 minutes to go. You got to, just if you go to the line, make your free throws. If you got an open three, you got to hit it. And you got to stand tall defensively the other way. And we understand the league's very good, but I think Spartan fans are frustrated. You talk to Josh Aduje and Coach Miles and Latrell Davis after the game. They all say we're better than what our record is. A lot of people would probably echo with what they're saying. And it's just they just got to go out there and capitalize on it. They got themselves an opportunity to get themselves on the win column this Saturday at Air Force, which I don't want to throw the must win, tag next to that game, but you need that game for how frustrating things have been. 0-5 in league play. You've been in a lot of these games. You got to go out and beat Air Force. Like that's the game you have to go win. Everyone's taken care of Air Force, and we had a lot of fun talking with those guys at media days, but we know that they're at a disadvantage, just their lack of size in the front court, the way that they cannot use the portal. The Air Force Falcons have some disadvantages in that area, and that's why they're on the bottom tier of the conference every single year. But that's a game It's going to be a good test for SJSU because it would not shock me at all if the game's close because winning on the road is difficult. And we're seeing that in the Mountain West. You see it all in college basketball, just college athletics as a whole. Home courts matter. It doesn't matter how many people are in the building. The home team will always shoot better on their home rim. It's for the most part, that's just the way it goes. I mean, look, San Jose State got two conference wins last year. They both came against Air Force, and one of those wins against Air Force came at the horn, courtesy of MJ Amy on a corner three last year. So this game is probably not going to be easy. They're going to have to play for 40 minutes. They're going to have to close it out. They're going to need to hit their shots. Coach Miles will have them ready. They just got to go out there and do it against an Air Force team that has struggled. And maybe this might be the turning point for SJSU this Saturday against an Air Force Falcon team that has very much struggled all season long. All right, I want to switch gears to another Mountain West game out in Laramie, Wyoming. New Mexico versus Wyoming. Great game to watch. I did not watch it live. I had some stuff going on yesterday, so I recorded all these games and spend a lot of hours rewatching them and to give my analysis for everybody watching and listening. So, New Mexico and Wyoming. Great game. Great game. I will say this, New Mexico. So this New Mexico team is getting my attention. I mean, 5-0 in Mountain West play now. Very impressive. Like what they've been able to do here in conference play. Go on the road at Colorado State, control the game from start to finish. Big win. You take care you take care of some games that you're supposed to win. I think they played at Air Force and they controlled that one. The Nevada game, right? You get a desperate Nevada team that's 0-3 in league plays, drop some games that they shouldn't have. They go on the road, in Albuquerque, the 1000th game at the Pit. New Mexico, a game that felt like they should have been up like 14-5 early and just drilled the Wolfpack. Nevada kind of grinded it out, slowed the game down, and really, made it pretty much a grudge match. New Mexico had to play the Wolfpack, the refs. Like it was the Lobos came out strong in that game. They won on a Nelly Jr. Joseph wild free throw line floater, which was pretty much a discombobulated final possession in overtime. New Mexico, I mean, look, this game last night versus the Wyoming Cowboys. This was probably not going to be it. If you would have told me 2 years ago that New Mexico's going in the Laramie, might have been a scheduled loss, quite honestly, despite the talented rosters that they've had over the years. This is kind of one of those like tricky spots in the Mountain West. Wyoming, Laramie, not very easy to get to. The altitude aspect of the whole thing is obviously an element that we have to consider in all of this. But this was a game for New Mexico with how it went last night, and how it just overall how it started. Whatever it was, they were like 3 for 20 to start out the game, and they couldn't they couldn't score a bucket, really to save their life. I mean, look, started 1 for 10 from the field, 3 for 20 from the field, and they were down double digits in that game. 2 years ago, if that game script went the exact same way, even last year maybe, despite all that talent that they had with Mashburn and Dent, who's still on the roster, obviously, and Jalen House, I would have said they're probably not winning this game. But this New Mexico team is, just from what I'm seeing this year, is completely different from last year because they just New Mexico, I feel like, as awesome as that team was last year, as entertaining as it was, they were like one of those volatile New Mexico teams where they can shoot you into a win and they can shoot you out of a game, right? Because as much fun as those three guards were, with Mashburn, Dent, and House, specifically Mashburn and House, with last year, those guys will hit some crazy buckets for you, but their shot selection can also be very wild. And when things go sideways, They can also shoot you out of a game, and all of a sudden it becomes out of reach. But that game last night, they really didn't look panicked at all. Yeah, sure, Patino was probably freaking out a little bit, like, oh boy, like we can't make a shot. But Donovan Dent has got that team under control. And that is what's really impressing me. Like right now, he is player of the year. 17 points per game, 19 points per game, actually. And he's averaging over 7 assists. He's the only player in the country doing that. And he's number one in the Mountain West in points per game and assists per game. Like what he is doing to impact this team right now is incredible. And that's why, the league season were to end today, he's player of the year. The fact that New Mexico's 5-0 for the first time since like what, the 1977-78 season is amazing. And I know Wyoming didn't have their best player, Obi Agbeam, and I'm honestly, when the news came out that he wasn't going to play, he pretty much gave it to a go, all the way to, pretty much tip off, and, they ruled him out. But for a guy in Agbeam that's been averaging 18 a game, I would have been like, oh boy, like this might be a game New Mexico just runs away with. But then you see how the game starts and how, New Mexico just doesn't really panic, finds a way, grinds it out, makes some buckets, starts to slowly but surely speed up Wyoming a little bit. Wyoming couldn't really make a shot in the second half. And that was something that's really impressed me because those Patino teams, maybe a couple of years ago, just wouldn't be able to break through for that win. When Patino would be in his rough stretch, in February, maybe from that team 2 years ago, they would probably drop that game. And in fact, I think they dropped that game 2 years ago in Laramie. So there you go. So that really impressed me from New Mexico side. And even though they don't have Mashburn House and from last year and going into this year, this team is just as good because Dent, like we said, has got complete control of what they need to do. He's got to take over. He can go. Donovan Dent is good for like three like wow plays a game. Like, did he really just do that? But he had about five of those in the Wyoming game, which really I would say shocked me. But like the fact that he had that many, and that the way that they came back in that game, he's over here diving for loose balls, throwing it off of Kobe Newton, the pick and rolls, like the difficult buckets, the way he's running the floor, the layups, it was just a great watch. And Lobo fans, Mountain West fans, take advantage of watching Donovan Dent every night and appreciate it because that is one hell of a gifted player that is so soon not going to be around. Like eventually his eligibility is going to be up, and you're not going to have a guy like him that could really score the basketball, really starting to really leave his imprint on the Lobo program, and just what a player. As far as the Wyoming side is concerned, really impressive. I mean, there's not many teams that when you take out your best player, they're gonna be able to be competitive. I don't care if you're 7,000 feet above sea level, but when the fact that Sundance Wicks hasn't had his best player in like the past two games, I believe now, and that they're still able, to win, to either win or control a game and come down to the very end. That just speaks how not only on how good of a coach he is, but how bought in the players are to what he's preaching over there. Because Wyoming, we talked to Sundance Wicks before the season started, and he said, "Get ready, old school, 3 out, 2 in. We're gonna slow the thing. We're gonna slow it down, and we're gonna play physical basketball." That's pretty much what they've been doing all year long, and they have a better chance of doing it in Laramie, of course, because it's their home court. They go practice there every day. They're out there running their sets in that building. They get the crowd involved. That's a real home court advantage, like we say. And the fact that they just got Agbeam's been their guy, but the fact that Nesbitt has 6 double-doubles this season. I know he struggled shooting the basketball in this one, only 2 for 11, but still he was still able to go out there, command this offense, you know, for I would say about 25 minutes, 30 minutes, before things really got hairy and, he started making some bad decisions. Cole Henry, I mean, he just keeps impressing me more and more. You know, a guy that's going to block a couple shots a game. He's going to make it difficult on the opposition. He's going to have a couple and ones. He's going to get some tough buckets in the post. And Dante Allen was a guy off the bench for them. I think he's going to be a good piece for them. A guy that can shoot it. He can run. He can run the offense a little bit as well. A little bit reckless with the basketball. Like he is good for a few turnovers in some of these games, but still, if you got a guy that can score, shoot, hold up somewhat defensively. They got that in Dante Allen, and Kobe Newton's gonna light it up from deep. He's good for about three threes a game, maybe even more if he's got the shooting stroke going. So this Wyoming team, every single night they're in Laramie. They're going to be grinding out these teams, and it was funny. Sundance Wicks, when I was watching the game on TV, they're like 330th in pace. Like they're like the 30th slowest pace team in America. He's like, yeah, we want to be even slower. So like that just goes to show how Sundance Wicks wants to play things here. They've actually been, they've had very limited road games, but they've been impressive in their road games as well. I do want to see him kind of in a more. I know they went to Logan, but I do want to see him. In a game versus in a game like versus New Mexico or versus somebody else, or when a team does have to speed him up, uh, like a New Mex or maybe New Mexico in Albuquerque at the pit, because New Mexico will be able to control the pace over there. But some of these other faster teams, even San Jose State and Air Force. I'd like to see. I'd like to see what they're able to do because if they can't, from what I saw last night, if they can't control the tempo, it could be a little bit difficult, and that could just be the whole Obi Beam factor of him not being in there as well. But still, Sundance Wicks, like we talked about, hell of a coach for what he's got out there. He's getting a whole lot out of those guys, and you tip your cap to him. Wyoming. I know similar to San Jose State, the wins and losses might not reflect for what they're doing. I know the Nevada game stands out quite a bit, but they are capable of destroying anybody's bracket on any given night here on any given day in the Mountain West, and we already know that's what's great about the league, the unpredictability factor of it all, and the fact that we get these competitive games because man, Wyoming, they've been impressive so far this season, and Sundance Wicks got those guys coaching, but credit to Coach Pitino, down 14 at halftime, and they were still able, to win that game. So that was something that really impressed me. Because like we said, Coach Pitino maybe doesn't get that win 2 years ago. So kudos to the Lobos. As far as some other games, I mean, look, UNLV was 3-0 to start out league play. They beat San Jose State. They beat Air Force. They beat Fresno. They had themselves I would say, a soft schedule. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat it. They haven't played themselves one of the upper tiers teams in the Mountain West. Boise State coming off the San Diego State loss this past Saturday. I thought it was going to be the ultimate like smash spot for Boise. Like UNLV going on the road to Extra Mile Arena, and those guys, didn't play the way they wanted after the San Diego State game. They had themselves a prime opportunity to get it done. And quite honestly, like Tyson Degenhart didn't look like himself. Omar Stanley, things were going on with him. Like he was coming off the bench. Didn't look like Omar Stanley from last year. And really just controlled the glass. Like, shout out Coach Tom Mosser, great follow on Twitter for all Mountain West hoops. Me and him are going back and forth and just chatting like, hey, what do we think about the games on Tuesday night? And I was like, I just straight up told him like, hey, Boise is in a prime spot to bounce back. Just for how bad things went for in the San Diego State loss. And look, they only lost by like what, 5 points, but didn't look like Boise State basketball in that San Diego State loss. So I thought it was going to be a prime bounce back spot for a Tyson Degenhart to get back to what he's used to. Omar Stanley, to get to, really dominate down low. Offensive rebounds, second chance opportunities. Alvaro Cardenas hit some jump shots, just a get right game for everybody. And that's ultimately what happened because, Boise State won this thing by like what, 81-59. So 22 points. They won the game. And, they really took over in the second half. And look, UNLV, they're 3-1 in league play. I think this is going to be a team that they're going to have their ceiling. I thought last year's roster was their chance probably to do it when they got hot last year, like when they went like 9-1 down the stretch and they came in like smoking hot into the conference tournament last year. That was kind of like the roster for the Rebels. I think this roster is like a couple ticks down. Don't get me wrong. I like Jaden Henley. Like I like obviously Deedon Thomas is like an all-star talent. Jeremiah Cherry's been good as a front court presence for them. Jalen Hill is back and healthy, which is good. But if they had this roster with the healthy Rob Whaley and the Boone brothers from last year, this would be one hell of a squad. But they don't have the Boone brothers anymore. And for what those guys brought on, in Mountain West games, in those crazy environments, they were able to break through. Those guys came from the Big 12, so like they were more than capable of, capitalizing in some big moments, in some big time games in some tough road environments. And they missed that right now. And I think you're going to notice that they're going to be missed more and more down the stretch into Mountain West play, especially when they go into like a San Diego State and they need a bucket bad. Like I don't know. I feel like the Rebels will take care of business against the teams they're supposed to take care of business with. And sure, they might score the one or two big wins, but there is a ceiling to this team. And I think last year's team was much better than what it was. Like Kruger really missed an opportunity with last year's team. And it was unfortunate that they took some bad losses because, man, that very well could have been an NCAA tournament team for what they had last year. Like when they were clicking and like they were playing like their A brand of basketball, they can beat anybody in the league. And we saw that they scored some big wins last year. And, unfortunately, they just don't have the pieces that they had last year. And, for a Mountain West conference that is a little bit weaker this year, they don't really have any wins that jump off the resume from their non-conference. The 1 point loss to Dayton, the tough loss to Creighton. I don't know. They're gonna have to catch fire. They're gonna need somebody to come off the bench and emerge. Maybe Rob Whaley, when he comes back, can be that guy and maybe give this team another gear that they don't currently have right now. But the Rebels right now 3-1 in the league play, and just ultimately what I thought was going to be a big time bounce back game for Leon Rice and Boise State. Because look, you're going to see this a lot in the Mountain West, folks, where if a team comes off like a home loss, like San Diego State lost to Utah State like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and they came back, they had a week to, stress about it, endure it, suffer through the loss, and they got the win at Boise. And then Boise State, suffers the home loss. They get, a UNLV team that was probably, a little bit overvalued from what their record was, as far as their 3-0 record's concerned. And they had 5 days or 4 days to really sit on that loss. And they came back and, left their imprint on the game and, really frustrated the Rebels with their size and physicality. So, that's what just good coaches do. And, there's a lot of good coaches in the Mountain West. Like, it's amazing. And that's why these teams, quite honestly, they don't lose back-to-back games. Like the Boise States, the San Diego States, the teams that have, built that culture and, have been playing meaningful basketball in March and have been in the NCAA tournament in these big games, they know how to bounce back because they got that culture already, within the program. And, they They got the personnel and they got the coaching, and they're really bought into what they're doing over there. And Boise State is one of the many teams in the Mountain West, uh, that fall in that category. As far as Colorado State and Fresno State, I'm gonna be completely honest. Did not get my eyes really on this game, um, just because it was such a bloodbath. Colorado State, let's give them some credit. I mean, this was a team that I was like, okay, Isaiah Stevens is gone. Yes, I'm fully bought in on the Nick Clifford stock. Like he's going to be amazing for this team, and he's going to be a first round pick in the NBA draft this spring. But I just was a little bit skeptical on them. I thought they were going to be due some for regression, and they've kind of really answered all the questions. They had themselves a really good just all around game in San Jose. Yes, they lose the New Mexico game. They win the game in Fresno against Fresno. You win at Nevada. Like they're 3-1 in league play, and Coach Medved's got these guys going. I mean, look, you get 20 points out of Crocker Johnson, who, like we said, is like the ultimate wild card in a way for Nico Medved this year. Like he's the X factor for their team. I mean, Clifford has just been awesome on both ends. Kyan Evans has been great, running their offense. Jalen Lake, he's been 12, 15-point scorer every single night. Didn't really need it in the Fresno game, but I'm impressed with Colorado State so far. They've definitely raised my eyebrows, for what they've done. Coach Medved, another one of those guys, right? He came behind Tim Miles. Coach Miles, departs Colorado State. Coach Medved takes over, and he's just keeping together the winning ways over there in Fort Collins. So, Colorado State, another team where, we'll see what their ceiling is. I really don't know what their ceiling really is right now. Just because they've been playing so good, I thought they were going to be a little bit much more lower. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't think they were going to lose to Fresno or anything, but I'd like to see them actually in a game versus Boise State. Put Boise State in Fort Collins. Let's see what that game looks like. I think we still got to see a little bit more for this team, but for what they've been doing, taking care of their wins and, winning decisively against the teams that they should beat, that's been impressive because I thought that they were going to be in some tricky situations, even the other night versus Fresno. Let me just say this about Fresno State. This has got to be the most erratic team in college basketball. I've seen some of their games this year. And look, they're the first team to crack the code on the matchup zone on Utah State. They had a 17-point lead in that game in Logan. They trail 15 points in that same game in Logan. Then they come back and almost, make it a one-possession game and nearly win. This is one of the most craziest teams in college basketball. You don't know what you're going to get from them on any given night. They shoot 50% from three in a 27-point blowout loss in Fort Collins. Now, they're 7 for 14 shooting, but still, this is a team that's been all over the place this year. They've played a double overtime game, versus Cal Baptist that had a bunch of fireworks. They've just been reckless, and I don't know what we're gonna get from them on any given night. They could lose by. They're one of these teams that it would not shock me if they whenever they play Boise State on the schedule, they go and win in Boise or they go and win at San Diego State, and it wouldn't shock me at all. If they lose by 30 to Air Force. That's where we're at with this Fresno State team. They're very just a reckless bunch, and you watch them play as well. I didn't get to see them against the Colorado State game, but the Utah State game I pretty much saw from start to finish. That's a team that plays up and down. They will take it 1-on-3. They don't care. That is a team, and that's a team that's full of junior college players, right? Jalen Weaver and Elijah Price has been good for them, but they only have a couple guys from last year's roster. Everybody else are guys that are still trying to get their feet wet at this level, playing in that level of physicality in the Mountain West, and they've been able to speed a lot of these teams up. They play very fast, and don't get me wrong, Utah State can match that energy, but Fresno, man, They are a reckless bunch. I can only imagine what that San Jose State Fresno State's game is going to look like, especially the game at the Save Mart Center, because it seems like every single time the Spartans and the Bulldogs play at the Save Mart Center, it's a game that's filled with a bunch of fireworks and a couple cherry bombs as well. So yeah, that's where we're at with the Mountain West. I thought a great slate of Tuesday action. We're in the meat of conference play, guys. So, just overall big picture, like we're getting big time SEC games, Big 12 games, and like this is the time of year. If you're late to the party for college basketball, by all means, we got ourselves an open door policy. We're more than happy to welcome everybody in, but this is the time. Get your feet wet. Come join the party because this is some high level basketball. The Mountain West, it's been high level for a couple of years now. You know, the big time schools, it's starting to get real. Even the mid majors, like Wednesday night, we got Drake and Bradley in the Missouri Valley. Like, how much fun is that game? Like, that game's being played on national TV. Two heavyweights in the Missouri Valley Conference. So this is the time for college basketball. I know everybody will wait until, probably after, this weekend's action with, the college football playoff, but March is going to be here before you know it. And I know March Madness always gets, publicized as, one of the big sporting events, just overall on the sports calendar every single year. But man, the journey is just as great as the destination. And the destination is March Madness, and that's where everyone wants to be. But man, the journey of watching these teams and watching them grow and you know see how the ups and downs and players emerge and the crazy, games that go back and forth, even the games that are not maybe chalked up to do so. That's what we live for. And, as fans, as someone that, covers, San Jose State and the Mountain West, what more do you want? So great time here in 2025, in the month of January, to turn on the TV and go to a college basketball game live, and just take it all in because at the end of March, when the calendar flips to April, you'll have the national championship game, and then you're going to be waiting 5-6 months for it all to happen all over again. So enjoy the moment. We'll be here for along the ride. We got ourselves a massive Saturday college basketball slate. San Diego State at New Mexico, UNLV at Colorado State, Nevada at Fresno State, Boise State at Utah State. What a game. And San Jose State at the Air Force Falcons. So that's what we got in front of us this Saturday, January 11th. We'll be back. We'll figure it out. We'll tweet something out as far as when's the next time we'll check back in. Probably once when the Saturday games are over and once when we have the results there. But who knows? Maybe we'll come back on, talk about those games, how the potential game scripts of those. But like we said, great time in the college basketball landscape to jump on board and watch some of these games and go to them live. So that will do it for this episode of the Sports Sentiment. Once again, I am your host, Nick Urias, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.